I used to think MacBooks were some of the most overrated laptops in the entire tech industry, but I was wrong. I ended up buying a MacBook Air M1 2020 to see for myself, and now I finally understand why people keep buying these things. So, give me just 8 minutes, and by the end of this video, you might want a MacBook too. So first, let's start with this one feature that's a total game changer, especially if you're coming over from Windows and using Mac for the very first time. On a PC, if you want more workspace on your screen, you usually have to go out and buy a second or third monitor. But with a MacBook, you basically get virtual monitors built right in. You can create tons of separate desktops for different tasks, so one screen starts feeling like multiple monitors built into the laptop. I usually keep Discord on one desktop, Spotify on another, and my browser on a third. And the best part is how fast you move between them. Just one 3-finger swipe and you're instantly in another workspace. Now, don't get me wrong, a dedicated triple monitor rig is still king for hardcore editors. But for the average person, and even for someone like me, this is more than enough. I'll be editing a video in one space, then just swipe over to Photoshop to work on a thumbnail. It's incredibly convenient and saves so much desk space. And the reason this works so well isn't just macOS itself. It's the combination of macOS and the trackpad, which is my next reason to buy a MacBook. The trackpad on this thing is honestly in a league of its own. Now, I haven't spent enough time with the newest high-end Windows laptops to do a head-to-head, but as a guy who usually hates using anything but a mouse, I am genuinely impressed. What's wild is that there are no actual moving buttons. It's all haptic feedback, meaning you can click anywhere and it feels the same. You can even go into settings and change the click pressure to be light or firm depending on what you like. And the thing that makes it feel premium is consistency. Every single click feels identical no matter where your finger clicks. Unlike a lot of Windows laptops where the bottom half feels good but the top half feels stiff or awkward. And I am not even trying to hate on Windows laptop here. I used one for years before getting this MacBook. But on my old laptop, the trackpad always felt like something I tolerated, not something I actually enjoyed using. Now don't get me wrong, if I am diving into a heavy editing session where I have to work in nodes or heavy VFX, I am reaching out for my mouse, no questions asked. Because precision work is just faster that way, and your fingers eventually get tired of sliding around. If I'm just doing simple cuts or making a thumbnail and I'm too lazy to get out of the bed and move to my desk, I don't even bother connecting a mouse. Now we have to talk about the Apple ecosystem. If you already have an iPhone, iPad or AirPods, this is where things get almost scary smooth. I use my iPhone to film all my videos, and honestly, phone cameras are so good now that you really don't need a dedicated mirrorless setup to get started. But before I had this MacBook, my workflow was a nightmare. I'd have to upload 5 GB or 10 GB of B-rolls to Google Drive, wait for ages for it to finish, and since I live in a third world country, I had to download everything again on my Windows PC, which got frustrating. With a MacBook, life becomes so much easier. It was a massive waste of time before, and it just kills your creative flow. Trust me with this one, it's a total lifesaver. But with a MacBook, I just hit AirDrop and that's it. Plus, if you have an iCloud subscription, your Photos app stays synced. And it's the same with AirPods. You just put them in, and the audio switches over automatically. You don't have to menu dive or pair them again and again every time. When you use these features every day, the whole experience just feels premium in a way that's hard to go back from. And that's honestly the biggest thing with Apple's ecosystem. The device stops feeling separate and starts feeling like one connected system. So now let's talk about the battery life of the MacBook. First of all, Apple claims around 18 hours of battery backup on my MacBook Air M1 2020. But realistically, it's more like 8 to 12 hours depending on your usage. But honestly, for me personally, I usually charge it once and then use it for like 2 to 3 days before charging it again. And compared to Windows laptop, that's a huge win. Because with most Windows laptops, especially performance laptops, you have to carry around a heavy charger brick everywhere. Meanwhile, the MacBook Air charger is super small, and since it's Type-C, I can literally fit it in my pocket or just throw it in any bag without even noticing it. And if you've used Windows laptops before, you have probably noticed this too. The moment you unplug them, they start struggling. Performance drops, battery drains faster, and gaming laptops especially lose a huge amount of their graphics card performance when they are not plugged in. But with my MacBook, that's honestly pretty rare. I'd even say it has basically never happened to me where it starts struggling badly or overheating during my normal workflow. And keep in mind, my MacBook is already at 89% battery health, and it still competes surprisingly well against many newer Windows laptops. Because realistically, most Windows laptops give around 5 to 8 hours of actual usage no matter what the company claims on paper. And just to give you an idea of my workflow, I usually have like 20 to 30 Chrome tabs open across multiple Google accounts, DaVinci Resolve open most of the time, and apps like Discord or OBS constantly running in the background. So considering all of that, I'd say the battery life and efficiency are really impressive. Another point I want to bring up here is mostly for editors and productivity users. And that's the fact that editing on a MacBook feels a lot smoother compared to my PC. Now I already have a pretty powerful PC with an RTX 3080 and a Ryzen 5600. So on paper, it should absolutely outperform my MacBook in editing workloads. Right? Wrong. Because in my experience, the timeline on my Mac feels much more responsive and fluid. And after doing some digging, I found out that a lot of it comes down to optimization. Mac OS and Apple Silicon genuinely feels designed for creative workloads. So even if the raw benchmarks don't always win, the actual experience of editing often feels smoother on the MacBook. And as someone who edits all of his videos by himself, that smoothness matters a lot more than people think. Like when you're scrubbing through the timeline, reviewing footage, switching between apps, or making small cuts every few seconds, those tiny delays on the other systems start adding up really fast. Meanwhile, on the MacBook, everything just feels cleaner and more responsive. Now the big part, gaming. There was a time when gaming on MacBooks was completely impossible. ARM-based MacBooks came out later. Before that, there were Intel-based MacBooks. People tried using things like Boot Camp on Intel Macs or softwares like Parallel Windows to run Windows games. But the experience usually wasn't great compared to a proper gaming PC. Then Apple switched to Apple Silicon with the M1, M2, M3 and now M4 chips. And the things started changing really fast. Now obviously I'm not saying a MacBook replaces a high-end gaming PC, but compared to where Mac gaming used to be, it's honestly improved a lot. So if you guys want, I can make a dedicated video showing how to play games like GTA 5 and other titles on a MacBook. Just comment down and I will make it happen. Bye.